We're here for schedule and dispatch, and your first question might be, why is a credit collection guy on the stage? But so I'm going to take you through a little bit of our history. Now, first off, we're in the current production application, so I don't think we have any future forward-looking parts of the application here. But just in case you're making your decisions today to purchase this product, it's all based on current information and application. 2007, the founder of this company took a company public and then took a piece of it back and said, I'm going to go out and do it again. And within a year, they started acquiring entities here and there, but we were brought on in April of 2011. I started with Select, and they had acquired a half dozen companies. And that next year, we acquired almost one company a month. And the best thing that we did back in that time was make sure that everybody, all of these acquisitions from the accounting perspective were put into one ERP. That was the best thing that we did. But soon we grew to 7 regions. We were in all of the shale plays. And by 2012, we were about $1.2 billion in revenue. And you had 7 regions that were given the latitude to run their regions as separate companies. Just think of it as your own company, keep that entrepreneurial spirit. And then you can imagine, born out of that was 7 different ways to do things. We had common KPIs that we were tracking, but they all had different methods of going about meeting that goal and meeting that need. And then they had their own internal KPIs to track, and everybody tended to look forward and never wanted to look back. So you had whatever it took to get the work done, whatever it took to get the work manned, the job manned and successfully and safely conducted. But when it came to invoicing, the pile of paper came in and it was given to somebody, and then we didn't look back. So at the time, I would say that we were generating between 35 and 40,000 field tickets a month. It was probably more than that in some peaks. A lot of manual data, invoice data entry into networks that some of us are probably aware of, the Oildexes of the world. So we had field tickets that would be passed out for signature and never come back, and somebody may be tracking them, they may not be. So a lot of revenue leakage and inconsistent processes across the company created severe audit issues. So by 2014, what we had accomplished was eliminating the manual entry of invoice data. We do nothing but B2B integrations from the invoice perspective. The DSO related to order to invoice came down significantly. But the piece that was still way out of control was the field ticket process. So by this time, we're 8 service lines. We're still regionally managed, still very, very much attention deficit as an organization. And the management decide that we don't have enough focus on the right segments of the business, so they split us out into 3 LLCs and put management in place to focus individual silo focus and drive business down through that silo. It did help. It managed to make us focus on water and others to focus on accommodations and so forth. So we start to mature as a company, but we're still at this point, we're centralizing credit collections. It's pretty much done. We're still leaking revenue out of the field ticket level, and we're still very inconsistent about field ticket process. Now, we all know that the downturn in oil prices began in 2015, and we have to start looking internally at what we're going to do. And again, management have yet to look in the rearview mirror. They're always looking forward, but by now they're beginning to look internally and start to see some of the great inefficiencies within the organization. So the person that's probably most concerned about cash flow other than me is the CFO. and as you're pulling cash out of the AR in this downturn, you're paying off debt, and you begin to see some of the revenue leakage and what's causing it, we're able to now have the conversation about how do we get better at doing what we do, and how do we capture every dollar that we're earning. That gave us the opportunity in 2016 to have operations and the finance team come together with a third-party consultant in the room that's unbiased to either side to document what is important to Select. And you know, as a sidebar, we're talking to folks like FieldFX and trying to figure out exactly where we want to attack first. But it's obviously the field ticket is our biggest opportunity. So we all agree in this room, and by doing this, we get buy-in from operations. They have some skin in the game because we ask for their opinion. And at the end result, once we get done creating this solution, if you will, they'll have their KPIs met, and you know, click of a button reports and things of that nature. That's what was important to them. So real-time view of operational business and data, being able to look at a dashboard and manage and know billable versus non-billable or whatever is their key metric for the day. To be able to support them and have them know what areas they need to focus on and manage the exceptions and not the whole thing all day. For me, it was stop revenue leakage. Let's collect every dollar that we bill. And what we also, as we're preparing through the latter part of 2016, we file a 144A. It's obvious we're going to try to go public. Then you start being concerned. You're starting to think about audit. As a public company, different scrutiny level. How are we going to satisfy the audit demand that's going to be upon us? So all of these things are being talked about. Born out of that meeting with operations and finance is what we're going to call a quality management system. We refer to it as QMS. And the start of it is choosing how to capture our field ticket information digitally. And the solution, choosing the solution that's going to get us there, and we obviously chose FieldFX. I've known about FieldFX for a number of years, different companies, moving over to Select, same contact all these years, and I'm happy to be able to make that relationship and go forward because I do think it's the best tool on the market. We have remote data capture offline. We market leader when it comes to configurability and being able to meet all of our needs no matter what they are. Because there are different industries here in the room, and this product can pretty much satisfy any of our needs from a field ticket perspective. Another opportunity that we heard in our meeting with operations is that they wanted to centralize dispatch. And this was before actually seeing what some of the tools did that were available out there. Because they were looking at the need for electronic driver logs. Right, the state are forcing that, and what are we going to do about it? It was the state and some of these other regulations were forcing us to have a conversation about how to do things differently. And the BUVP of our water hauling division decided to centralize dispatch, and that gave us a good dovetail into what the scheduling and dispatch module can do for us, and that it's enabled us to get that centralization almost complete. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jeff for a demonstration.
Thanks, Randy. All right, so I actually just want to go into a little bit more from a project perspective about what Randy was talking about, our QMS. As he had said, it's a quality management system, so quality being not only the service that we provide to our customers, but also the quality of data that we actually have in-house and that we can use to make business decisions. So this QMS is more than just the electronic field ticketing system. We have embarked on several integrations. The first that we've done is we've got an integration with our ERP system where we actually pull in customer data, account information, fixed asset information, and we do this integration nightly. And one of the next things that I'm working on as project manager is now that we've got FieldFX up and running in our first yard, and we're kind of over the hump as far as adoption and our user uptake. So now we're going to start taking those completed field tickets in FieldFX and integrating forward into our ERP system so that once our driver actually completes that field ticket out in the field, then that field ticket will be available for our processors, further reducing multiple points of data entry. So our processors can just pick up that field ticket and move on with whatever their invoicing process happens to be at the time. So as Randy had alluded, this is actually our second attempt at doing a field ticketing project. We had tried once before in 2014, and I won't name the company, but it was not Salesforce based platform. It was a .NET, but it was the typical, if we needed something done from a select perspective, if we needed a new field or a new view to something, it was going back to this company and making the request, and 3 weeks and $10,000 later you had your request fulfilled. Whereas the Salesforce platform, I've actually learned enough in the past 8 months that I've been using the system for even some of the more complex types of changes. A lot of that I can actually do myself now. So much more robust, flexible platform that we're on now. Really can't say enough about the usability and the ease of it. So one of the things, so if any of you out there are thinking of signing with Liquid Frameworks and going with this product, one of the things that I would suggest or recommend to you is one of the things that we did was we hired an outside consultant to help us with our implementation. The company that we use actually has a booth, Techstone. And we actually were lucky enough to get a locally based consultant with many years of Salesforce experience, and they really helped us along with doing our customizations and making the FieldFX product, took it out of the box and morphed it into what we use today. And I would recommend for any of you that are thinking about going that route is using an outside consulting firm. I think it'll make your implementation much smoother. So we've got our first yard in, and again, we kind of started a little bit small with just a proof of concept. So this first yard that we have, we run about 20 trucks. There's about 30 or so users that we have, 30 to 40 users that we have in the system right now. So again, just as a suggestion, rather than taking on one of your more larger, complex yards or plants or operations, I would say probably start off a little bit smaller. And I think you get that first win, and from a project perspective, you're able to report that back to your project committee or your sponsors, and it just makes you that much more successful going forward for other releases and that type of thing. So with that, I'll go ahead and get into the demo for our schedule and dispatch module. As I had said, Salesforce, which this is built on, is a very flexible product. So there are many different ways that you can configure the schedule and dispatch module, but we've toyed around with many of the different ways to set it up, and we found for our purposes this particular layout seems to work out the best, because what you get is on the left-hand side, so you get a listing of all the jobs that you have teed up, and on the right hand, going to the right, you basically have your day laid out. So for each of these panels, you can actually remove them if you want. You can resize them to basically fit your needs, however it works for you. But again, so we started off with our tank trucks division, and the basic components of getting a ticket out into the field is you've got the job itself, you've got a truck that's going to be assigned to it, and a driver that's going to be assigned to it. So those are the 3 panels that we have configured. So this is the actual job. It's called a timeline view. And then these 2 smaller boxes, I've got my drivers, which is actually the contacts object, and my trucks, which is the equipment object. So actually what I did was I just created a few jobs just out of this is our sandbox, a test system, just to show you how easy it is. Once the dispatcher actually takes that call for service and they complete the customer request portion of the form, and they save that, so they go into the schedule and dispatch module, and these jobs are here ready for them to schedule. So it's simply a matter of taking this job, and let's see, we're at 3:18, so let's say I want this job to start at 4 o'clock. So I'll drag that and drop it down. Now in the timeline module itself, or this panel itself, several things will start to pop up, and we refer to them as pills. So this particular little pill here pretty much represents the job. So then the other 2 components that I need for that would be a driver and a truck. So, I'm going to say, here's my list of drivers, and, I could scroll through and look and see if I can find who I'm looking for. Or if I'm looking for a particular person, I can just put a name in, and then it'll bring you to, if you've got a few Davids or Georges or whomever's you have, you can type in, all or part of their name and hit enter, and that'll shorten your view down. So I'm going to go ahead and assign myself to this job. So I'm just going to drag it, and you see how that little pill kind of gets a little highlight around it. So I'm going to drop myself onto there and just refresh this. So now you'll see that it's giving me this green box, and it says that I'm scheduled for this particular job. Let me just do another refresh here. And then there you see this is the actual employee pill, if you will. So then I need a truck. So I'm going to, I've looked at the yard, and I see that truck 500972 is available. So again, I'm just going to take this truck, and I've got my dispatch hat on. So I'm going to drag this truck over onto the job pill. And I'm going to refresh my data just to give another view of this screen. So now you can see I've got these 3 different pills that represent my dispatched job. So once you actually drag this information onto your job, it's ready for your driver. So in this case, if I were logged in as a driver into a tablet, as soon as I do a synchronization, I would get any or all of these jobs that are assigned to me. And it's based on driver, not on truck. So as a driver, if my truck breaks down during the day and I need to get into another truck, very simply log out of one tablet, go into the other tablet, log back in, and my jobs follow me. They don't stay with the truck. So if, as a dispatcher, you're looking through and you see some of these long names and what is all this stuff, one of the features that the schedule and dispatch module provides for you is these pop-up bubbles that if you hover over a piece of data, it gives you more information about that particular job. So this one tells me that it's scheduled April 26, 4 to 5 p.m. Here's my customer, it's the QMS account. What we're going to be doing, so I set this job up as just a plain disposal, so I'm going to go out to a well site, pick up a load of water, and take it to a disposal site. This tells me the yard that I'm working out of, who my driver is, what truck he's in, and then just what price book that we're operating off of. Dispatch really isn't concerned all that much with pricing, but it is part of, if we've got our operations manager maybe that's looking into this, or even somebody higher up at a corporate level that may be reviewing the module during the day, they can actually take a look at this too and see, what we've got going on in flight. So each of these pills, when you hover over them, again, this is just going to give me the same information, but I can also see little info about this truck and then about the driver. So let's say I've dispatched this job, and it was hectic and busy, and I had 2 phones going, and I kind of get a little breather, and I look back and I go, oh no, this job should have been scheduled for 5 o'clock. Well, one of the things that this module allows you to do is you can just grab this job pill and drag it over to the 5 o'clock start and give it a few seconds, and you'll notice that the driver and the truck pills follow along with the job. So there's a trigger that happens along in the background that actually makes that happen. So then I'm also looking at this, and I think, this particular job on this well, that's actually that's a 2-hour job. So I need to make a change there too. So again, rather than having to go into the back office and making some changes to the actual records themselves, from within the schedule and dispatch module, I can grab the right edge of this pill and drag it over, making the duration 2 hours. And again, the driver and the truck pills follow along with that. So now you can see, if I hover back over them again, you can see that it's also scheduled for April 26th, and it adjusted that start time to 5 to 7 p.m. now. So instead of just the original 1 hour that it was. So let's say now that I've got this job assigned, my driver started off in the trailer. They picked up their tablet. They go out to the yard to get their truck, and lo and behold, that truck is down for maintenance, or something, brakes are out on it, something's wrong. So the driver comes back to the trailer and says, hey, 972 is down. I'm going to need a different truck. So again, rather than having to get into the record itself, the job record, and making a reassignment of that truck, one of the beautiful things about this module is it allows you to make that kind of change on the fly from within the module. So if I go and get rid of this filter on that truck 972, so let's see, 940 is also a 130 barrel truck. So what I can do here is grab this truck and drop it on top of the other one, and you'll see that change was made on the fly. So now my truck reads 940 instead of 972. And if we were to open up the records in the back office portion of it too, you would also see that change was effected in the back office as well. So any changes that you need to make to either the start time, the duration, the driver, or the truck, they can all be made right here from within the module. And so from a dispatcher's perspective, it's fewer clicks. It's kind of not fully a one-stop shop, but it's about as close to it as you can possibly get. Very, very great tool. So if you also wanted to look at, I've got this set up as a day view, but if you wanted to look at it from a weekly perspective, so you can see here, we've got Monday and then Tuesday, and then if I were to adjust this down, I can scroll across, and if I wanted to see a larger view, there's my job for today. You can actually see a full week's view. But again, so our tank trucks operation is very short-term duration jobs, usually anywhere from 1 to maybe 3 hours on a longer type job. So we've figured that this day view in the timeline just really works the best for us in regards to the data that gets presented to you and what you're seeing all at once. So one of the things that I also wanted to show on this, so let's say I'm going to go ahead and schedule another job here. Get down to it. I'm going to drag this one over for the same, and I'm going to put myself on there again. And let me refresh my data. So one of the things I want to show you, so now you'll see I've got myself scheduled for the same time slot. And so that little red line, I don't know if you can see it, out to the right of the driver or employee pill, that lets me know a quick visual indicator that says, hey, this guy is overbooked. Now, in the system, you can choose to not let that happen, but we actually choose to let it happen because there are some instances where we do want to send out multiple jobs to a driver. Some of our guys that picked up on the system a lot faster than some others, a little more tech savvy, and they know the tablets better than some of our other guys. You know, they can handle getting multiple jobs on their tablet at once. So this gives us the flexibility for, you know, for one of my guys that's in that type of criteria. You know, we could send multiple jobs out to him at once and basically let him run his day. Now they are sequential in nature, so each of these jobs you'll see they all have a common customer request number, but each of the jobs is in sequential order as well. So they actually land and they're presented to the driver in numerical order. So they're, as long as dispatch is dispatching them out in the order that they want them to work, then all the driver really has to do is worry about working them from the top down, and they're good to go from there. So a little bit more about the module itself. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with Salesforce, but everything in Salesforce is built around objects. And for those of you that may have been or may be in a SQL world like I used to be, an object basically is the SQL comparison to a table. So you've got all this data that gets contained in an object. And so basically what you're looking at as far as these views, that's another thing that's very flexible with the module, is each of these views can be changed. So for instance, on the equipment module, if I look at the different views that are available, I've got all just Avondale equipment, the frac tanks, I've got trucks, and then later on we added a field that gives us a status for our trucks. You know, available, out of service, that type of thing. So we built this other view that says, okay, well, let's also present that to the dispatcher. So if one of our maintenance guys is also in the system, he can pull up a truck or trucks and flag them as being out of service or unavailable for whatever other reason. And so this view would actually give our dispatcher that they can still see all the trucks, but it would let them know that, hey, this truck is not available for use. So what I wanted to show you about that, so this, you can see, I think you can read it. So I'm on the equipment object here. So I actually have the equipment object open on a different tab, and you'll see that these list views actually follow the exact same thing that your object has. So again, I've got my jobs object open here, and you'll see these list views as being all jobs, just ones that are open today. And then if I go back to schedule and dispatch and I look at this view, then you'll see it's exactly the same as it is in the object. So one of the good things about that is if you're working and you implement this and one of your dispatchers says, you know, it would be great if I could see X, you know, as far as a view goes. Again, it's a very simple, just go to that object, create that view, and as soon as you're done with that, it becomes available to the dispatcher for them to filter on either the equipment, the jobs, or the drivers, or whatever panel you actually happen to have up there. That panel, those list views follow the actual object. So again, this is basically how we are using it. There's a couple of interesting features that we are looking into and we're thinking of implementing. One of them being, you know, again, for these types of jobs, I had said that they run anywhere from about 1 to 3 hours. So one of the fields that we actually have on that jobs object is the expected duration for that job. And one of the things that you can do with the schedule and dispatch module is called conditional formatting. And I don't know if any of you were just in Justin's presentation, but he talked about that. So let's say that I've got on a particular job, I expect it to last for 2 hours. And as my driver is going along and doing this job, they're hitting various timestamps that says, I've left the yard, I've arrived at the well, I finished loading at the well, I'm en route to the disposal. Based on those timestamps, I can actually conditionally format the background color of this job. So if we are, let's say it's an exact 50-50 split. So when they leave the well, an hour should have gone by. But let's say it's an hour 15. So because I've got this conditional formatting set up, I can color this yellow if I want to say, hey, we're getting, we may not meet our bogey as far as our time. But you can set that conditional formatting up, and again, it's, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You have a very instant visual cue to your dispatchers that says, hey, this job is in jeopardy. We actually priced it out at a 2-hour time limit, and we're probably going to start losing money on this job. So you probably want to get in touch with that driver and find out what's going on if they have a problem. Another feature that we actually have purchased, I haven't had a chance to put it into play yet, but it's a mapping feature. It actually plays within the schedule and dispatch module, but it actually allows you to graphically give a representation of where your wells are that you service, where your yard is, and if you wanted to do an integration with your GPS provider, which we are planning to do, you could actually get a real-time or near real-time pinpoint as to where your trucks are. So again, there are some good features out there, like the conditional formatting and mapping we haven't put into play yet, but we do intend to. But again, the module itself worked really great for us right out of the box. As Randy had said, the centralized dispatch concept was actually kind of formed before this came along, and this was actually one of the selling points that really helped us settle with FieldFX and Liquid Framework. So we've got we're out of our 8 yards, we're centralized dispatch with 5 of them now, and so you can imagine a half a dozen dispatchers working out of the Gainesville office that are dispatching for yards across the country. Any visual cues you can give them, fewer clicks as possible, is a huge help to them because it gets pretty hectic in their space. Well, with that, that's basically the demo that I wanted to show you today. If there is any questions out there, we can take those.
I've got the mic. I'll bring it around.
So, demo was great. I really appreciated that. Just, I'm sure this is something that happens to you now and again, where you run out of truck drivers or you run out of trucks, and you have to use third party.
Right.
How do you handle that?
For a third party, we really can't do anything with them because they have to have a tablet. So unless we have some kind of agreement with them already in place where we've provided them with tablets to work off of, then we can still enter the jobs in the module, and we can still track them that way. But you won't see any of the statuses that happened during the job.
Yeah. So I kind of gathered you wouldn't be giving tablets out to third parties.
Right.
So it was more that your dispatch person is managing some kind of relationship with the contractors that are doing your transport, and you're.
We do that, and so this is in days prior, and in those yards that we have not rolled this out to yet, dispatch still does use an Excel-based dispatch log. But in the yards that we have rolled out to, then they are using this system. So even if we utilize a third party for a haul or hauls,
Goes on there.
they will still enter that data here. But through the back office, you can complete all of the data entry that you would have completed on the tablet. So once we get that paper ticket from that third-party vendor that did the haul for us, then we can go into the back office and enter the data, and it's just as if we had done everything ourselves.
Okay,
You can still do it.
thanks.
Mhm.
Just curious if you were able to leverage the tablet in the truck for your ELD?
Great question.
Or were you using two devices in cab?
Actually, we did. We are rolling out electronic logging with this particular project as well. It's actually been a benefit to us because what we found is a lot of our driver community is not super tech savvy. So getting them on, getting a tablet in their hands and getting them used to using technology is really helpful. The logging software is just a tad easier to use than the FieldFX. Not that ours is overly complicated, but so we're actually rolling out the electronic logging ahead of the yards that we're going to be implementing FieldFX. So it does. It's simply two applications that we're running on the same tablet. It's all Android. And we're using an MDM solution called SOTI. So it's basically, you build the profiles, enroll the tablet, and it loads everything for you. So pretty simple.
With Techstone, how much, I don't know however many people were in the last presentation and here, but it sounds like they did the implementation internally with FieldFX, and they had a team of they at least had one project manager and a few people who were 100% of their time was dedicated to implementing the project. How much of your time was dedicated with the consultants or whoever's time was?
So we had our project kickoff mid-May last year, and I was 100% dedicated to the project. It actually worked out very well. The consultant that we had working with us, like I said, is based here in Dallas, in the Dallas area. So I actually officed with the guy for several months, and it's really how I learned a lot of what I know about Salesforce today. As I said, this guy has years of experience with Salesforce architecture and some development. So I really learned a ton, and I, as the senior project manager assigned to it, that was my task, was to get this in the ground and get it up and going.
So how would that have looked? I mean, how much was the FieldFX implementation team involved in that, or was it literally?
Oh, you mean the consultant?
No, not the consultant. So as we're looking at the platform right now, the phase that they've shown us is they have an implementation team that works with our project lead to implement the project.
Mm-hmm.
Is there someone working with the two of you guys, the consultant as well as yourself, or did your relationship with the FieldFX, support team kind of split and you worked just with the consultant?
Good question. No, we still maintained and do maintain a relationship with Liquid Frameworks. So I do still use their professional services. As far as the project went, so as we were, officing and doing our development, our customization, it was me and the Techstone rep, and then we had another developer working with us. So there was the three of us working on the project. Then, kind of as luck would have it, as we got ready to implement into the yard, we actually had a pusher out in the yard that got freed up. And we had brought him into the IT department, and because he kind of talked the talk and had that good relationship with drivers already, so then it kind of became the four of us that were the implementation team. Now, as far as the project went along, I held status meetings with a committee every 2 weeks, so I would be in the office every couple of weeks giving them a status. But as far as boots on the ground kind of people, it was really It was the two of us, me and another Jeff, go see. But we were actually the two select people that actually went to the yard, did the training, all that kind of good stuff. So it was, you know, a rather slim team, but you know, we've made it through so far, and you know, our plan for the remainder of this year is just to take it yard by yard. So once we finish one, then move on to the next. We are going to do them serially. Sure.
Got time for one more, too?
As far as electronic ticketing goes, has that made any difference as far as your ability to get that ticket in front of the customer, to get it signed, and do you still do any paper ticketing, depending on the needs of customers?
We're not doing any well, the only paper ticketing that we are doing today is around frac tanks. And that's not, it had nothing to do with the FieldFX capabilities. It had more to do with our capabilities on our ERP system, in that that actually is a delivery ticket versus a field ticket once it hits our ERP. So we decided, because we're starting to do this integration where we're actually sending the field ticket, we decided to go ahead and put that whole rental thing off to the side and do that part of it later. So frac tanks is the only places where we're using a paper ticket. And then as far as getting in front of the customers with signatures, again, fortunate, maybe not, you can look at it one way or the other, but the first play that we've done was the Barnett in Fort Worth, is where our yard is. So that particular area is all production wells, so they're typically unmanned. So in the past, where we would take a stack of tickets out via a runner, and they would usually, you know, have breakfast or lunch with these company men once a week to get the tickets signed. Well, now we can just do that electronically. They can actually sign in to a portal. They can see all their tickets. It has all the data, gauge readings, barrels pulled, disposal visited, all that kind of good stuff. And then they can actually sign them digitally. We capture that information because when we met with their audit team, they said, you know, we have to know who did this. So we're actually capturing, you know, through their sign-in, who actually digitally signed that, when they signed it. We give them the capability of rejecting. If they choose to, they can dispute a ticket. So we're actually catching those disputes further ahead in the process at the ticket side, so that we're not having so much of it done at the invoice side. So that's kind of helped, again, helped our DSO. You know, we're catching a lot of that dispute up front before we even invoice it.
Just as a follow-on to that, you're not having any issues with them still wanting paper?
We are, as a matter of fact. So what we did, because we had a company that was adamant. You know, they had the little mailbox out at the well, and the guy said, you know, you're going to leave us a piece of paper or no deal, you're not going to work for us. So we actually came up with this smaller piece of paper that we call a mini ticket, and it's got the bare minimums, the date, the gauge readings, the barrels pulled, and I think that's it. It's got our logo, and we put a QR code on it so that if the guys are out in the field, they can actually use the QR code with their phone, and it signs them right into the portal. But yes, we do have some that said, you will leave a piece of paper, so we came up with this little mini ticket.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. If you guys have any further questions, Randy and Jeff will be down here. Thanks again.
Thank you all.